This is a show and tell video for those of you who have not worked with the North American hard clam, the Latin name of which is Mercenaria mercenaria. We're going to talk a little bit about opening and plating for restaurants and sizing, and then I'm going to show you how to open the clam. What I have here is 4 different sizes of clams. It's all the same clam. It's just like fish. They grow to different sizes. But they're used for different things and they have different names. The smallest ones, which we call little necks, run about 20 to the kilo. 20 pieces in the shell to the kilo. The next size we call is a top neck. They run anywhere from 10 to 12 to the kilo. These 2 sizes are predominantly eaten raw on the half shell like this. These are little necks, the small ones, opened up, and these larger ones here are the top necks, opened up. In this North American market in the Northeast, we eat these clams mostly raw, and they're served with lemon wedges and a cocktail sauce, which is a 50% mix of red ketchup and horseradish sauce right out of the jar, like Gold's horseradish. Some people like to put a little Tabasco in to make it a little hotter. That's your choice. But that, if you went into a restaurant in Midtown Manhattan, New York City, or in Boston, or in Washington, D.C., to get raw oysters, you could also get raw clams, served and plated the same way. The next size up we call a cherry stone clam. Again, these are all the same clam, just at 4 different sizes. The cherry stone is 6 to 7 clams to the kilo, and if you went into Hong Kong, as I just came back on this trip, some of the real prominent raw bars, like at the Peninsula Hotel and the Sheraton Hotel, serve these raw. Personally, and again this is just me talking, it's kind of tough and chewy, but I would much rather see them serving the smaller ones. I think there's more flavor. And we're working on getting some of them to switch. The next size up, and the last size, we call soup or chowder, C-H-O-W-D-E-R, like clam chowder clams. These can't be eaten raw. They can be cooked and dipped in butter, but they're pretty tough. Most restaurants that use them either open them raw or cook them open and grind them up for soup, for clam soup. But, so I just, don't eat them raw. I'm going to show you how to open a clam now. All these clams have 2 abductor muscles, and these little orange marks in the bottom of the shell are the 2 muscles that let this clam open and close in its natural environment. The clam only lives in an 8-inch shell and is a bivalve, a filter feeder. It sucks in water and natural food from the ocean, digests it, and then expels what it doesn't need out of its other valve. And these 2 little abductor muscles help it open and close. The trick is, when you want to get to here, is to cut those muscles but not to cut the body of the clam, and I'm going to show you how to do it. For those of you who have never worked with clams, you need a flat clam knife. It's not an oyster knife and it's not a butter knife. It's a clam knife. It's a very thin blade. It's not sharp, but it's thin, and it allows you to get into the clam. For those of us who are working with us here at K&B, we can get these for you. This is a Russell Dexter, Russell-Dexter. They're about $10 or $11 US. There's other companies that make them. You can go online and I'm sure get them, but you have to have a clam knife. Okay, I'm right-handed. I'm going to hold the clam knife in my right hand. I'm going to put the clam in my left hand. The clam has a hinge on the back, which keeps the clam together, and I'll show you that when I open some. You put the hinge, and the clam also has two curves on the shell. I call this the long curve and the short curve. You put the hinge in your palm of your hand with the short curve in between your index finger and your thumb. You then put the clam knife right on the crack there, where the shells are joined together, and with the hand that holds the clam, that's the one that does all the work. You just squeeze down. Now, see how easy that went in? It's because we have the clams on ice, and I forgot to talk about this. If you're going to open up clams, you have to wash the shells really well. See how they're not leaving a dirt stain on this nice white cutting table. And then put them in ice for at least a half hour to an hour. It relaxes the clam so that when you go to open it, it doesn't fight you. All right, so I've cut that first abductor muscle right here. I just cut that muscle. I then turn my knife pull it partially out. Use the tip of the knife to go along the edge of the clam, so I'm separating it off the top of the shell. Now I just cut the other abductor muscle. See how nice and neat that is? And I didn't cut the body of the clam. You go in the other side, and voila. Now, in our market, there's several ways to eat this clam. Some people like to use a little fork, like a little cocktail fork, or it's very customary just to eat it off the shell like this. Delicious. That's it. But those few little tricks, washing them ahead of time, icing them down, getting yourself prepared to open them, makes it very easy to serve them. And these clams have been sitting on the ice for about a half hour and they still look good. If I had cut the stomach, by doing a poor job opening, they'd have kind of flattened out and would not look as appetizing. So that's it. Really, folks, if you came to most restaurants from the Washington, D.C., Boston area where there's raw oysters sold, you can also get clams mixed in. And we suggest that you start serving this, whether it's in China or Russia or any place else in the world. You're missing out. If you eat raw oysters, you should be eating raw clams. One last thing I've been urged to show you is a second way to open these. Not everybody can open them this way. Some people have to go through the back hinge. For me, the back hinge is more difficult, but you don't need any skill to do it. You just put the clam knife there, and you just keep wiggling, 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 wiggling until the clam knife finally goes in, and then you can kind of move it back around to the front and open it up. Okay?